All right. Well, hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Aware Athlete Show. I'm your host, Scott Forrester, and today's guest is Dr. Kaci. And Dr.
Hi.
Hi. And Dr. Kaci is a certified life coach, an ordained minister, and also she has a degree in management and psychology. So, Dr. Kaci, welcome to the show.
Hey, how are you doing?
I'm doing very well. How are you?
I'm doing well.
Okay, your day's starting out okay then.
It has been a quite a busy day, but yes, it's going pretty well.
Good, good. So let's start with a little bit of background for people who don't know you. Uh, I know that you went into the military at the age of 17, I think.
Yes, sir.
How did that come to be? And what was that experience like? And the good, the bad, the ugly.
So I ended up I used to fight a lot when I was younger. And in high school, I got expelled for fighting before my mother withdrew me from school. Well, I got expelled, got let back in. My mother withdrew me from school after she attacked me and tried to kill me. And that kind of led to me going to the military because I didn't have anywhere else to go and I didn't want to be a statistic.
Yeah, no kidding. So, what was the experience there? Was it upbuilding? Was it?
Um, the military was one of the best experiences of my life because it gave me structure. I learned a great amount of discipline and just being able to be around other people. It helped build my confidence in being able to go into the world on my own, but in a group at the same time.
Yeah. So one of my best friends ever was he didn't have much of a family life, and he went into the Marines, and it made a world of difference in his life,
I
I
mean,
think. Yeah.
it definitely has its long-term benefits. I mean, the drawbacks are like the disabilities, PTSD. If you go to war, which I have been to war, there are those type of drawbacks, but like the experience of going through basic training and all of that, it was fun, it was enlightening because you're learning along the way. And I was expecting like I don't want to say major pain or like in movies you used to just see drill sergeants are so crazy
Yeah.
and they were like that, but like for whatever reason I always was like, but y'all are really nice though, for real, like y'all are really nice guys, but y'all just acting tough in this position. So it was a great experience. I enjoyed it.
You enjoyed it.
Hmm.
So we've gotten right into your story already. It's just overwhelming to hear you talk that your mother tried to kill you. That was probably not a one-time thing. That speaks words about your entire relationship with your mother and your family.
Yeah, it that particular incident only happened once. Fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, I can't put the blame on you. So normally I don't put myself in the same type of situation more than once. And it brought a great divide because she kind of told a missed story about what actually happened and how it took place. So people, they didn't, because I was already a fighter, because it was, I had been expelled and all of these other things, they just believed the worst. And at that point, I believe in my life, I was used to people believing the worst in me. And as I look at my life now and I learn about my grandmother's activism, it probably, it's no telling what led my mother to that point at that moment. It's no excuses for it, of course, but it was an unfortunate situation. We communicate now, but it, I don't have the same amount of respect for her that I would if she was a regular, caring, nurturing mother.
Yeah. So, uh, t- can you talk about your disability? You were injured in the military?
Yes, well, I was in basic, well, not basic training, in the career training portion of training. I twisted my kneecap and I ended up having multiple surgeries on my left knee. And when it was time to go to Iraq in 2003, I had, well, it was several reasons why I decided to go. At first, I didn't want to go, but I had a dream about being in Iraq. So it made me eager to go. So after my second surgery, I actually asked them if I could go to Iraq, even though that I was supposed to stay back home. Because I didn't want to see the people that, I mean, I literally remember crying in the office, like, no, I don't want them to go without me, because these are my friends. If you're going to war, I'm gonna go fight with you.
Yeah.
And it was interesting, but that led to we got into a firefight. We took on I want to say enemy fire, but it's hard to tell who's the enemy in those situations. And we got attacked at night, awaking out of our sleep, just all type of things. So I also have PTSD, where I, for a very long time, I would have where I couldn't do fireworks. I don't do crowded places well. When I see Muslims, if they have like everything covered but their eyes, it really used to make me nervous. And I had to kind of do some self-healing on myself. I'm my own therapist sometimes. So I literally for Halloween once, I wrapped my head like, the people that you see, and it really helped me get over it, because I know I'm no harm, so it means that somebody else could be absolutely no harm as well. And just, that's just their religion, that's just what they believe in, and that's what they stand for. So I live with PTSD, and it is challenging sometimes, but mostly it's a matter of me finding a way to enjoy life.
Wow. Okay. So you have had so many experiences, so many life experiences at a fairly young age.
Yeah.
It's young to me, at least.
Right.
And so you've obviously gathered so much wisdom. You said you don't put yourself in a situation more than once when it's not a situation that you want to repeat. And how did you find your way towards forgiveness and actually and emotional maturity, spiritual maturity? How did you turn these experiences that you've had into such a positive?
So initially, in the attack from my mom, I believe I started programming myself to believe that if God put me through this experience to help somebody else, then it would not be in vain. So I would always do things to help other people with what I went through. But also after that, I wasn't raised in church, but I had friends. I lived with friends off and on. Um, and I actually remember one time when The Lion King first came out on VHS, and I had got strep throat or something. I was very, very sick. And they literally prayed over me. And the next day I was better. And so those interactions with other people outside of my home introduced me to a religion in a sense, but I didn't learn God until I learned God on my own. Really, that started in Iraq, but in when I was younger, it kind of was like water off a duck's back. When you are used to being verbally, abused, or in situations where you feel like you have to fight all the time, then fighting becomes natural, it becomes normal, so it doesn't seem like something that you have to get over. As far as like, I had to talk to my mother to go to the military because I was 17, so she had to sign off on it. So it wasn't like I hated my mother. I just, knew how to handle her after the fact. So I don't think forgiveness was ever a thing. It was just like, it just happened. So um moving into faith and understanding life and walking into where I am now. When I was in Iraq, I got saved. I was in Iraq in probably about, I want to say around November, December, and of 2003. And we had, it was a brand new camp. We was the first people there, so we were building it up, build tents. We were showering in trailer like thing. Well, before that, we used to have to get 5-gallon buckets and put it in a little, wash bin and like take bird baths basically. But so that experience broke me in a way that was not like, I wasn't broken, but my leg was hurting. I was just overwhelmed by everything that was going on. And I found myself always trying to find things that lift me up. I listened to a lot of Beyonce. I listened to a lot of Jay-Z. I listened to Outkast. I listened to all these things that would bring me more joy. But I remember going to the tent church that we had, and I told them, like I felt like the devil was on my back. I felt like it was heavy, like whatever was on me, it was so heavy, and I just wanted to go away. And when I went to the altar, they prayed over me, but I remember like falling to the floor, felt like somebody had pushed me. But when I talked to them about it, they stated that nobody touched me. I just fell out. And then when I went back to my seat and I was saying, "Thank you, God," that was not coming out of my mouth. And I was like trying to force myself to say, "Thank you, God," but it was coming out like in something else. It was like gibberish coming out of my mouth, and I couldn't like make it. I couldn't make the words come out of my mouth. So that really led to my faith being like opened up, because before then, I believed in God, but I've never been religious. So it was just, my experiences and interactions. When my mother tried to kill me, it was a man that came in a white Cadillac, and he had on all white, and he literally saved my life. And then in another situation where I was staying with a friend, and some guy that I knew that I had worked with felt like I was in harm's way, he literally like was, "Hey, come ride with me," and then he took me away from that place so that I wouldn't get hurt. So it's always felt like I've had God's guardian angel through a vessel to lead me along the way.
Yeah. So so the people outside of your family meant a lot to you. Various
Yes.
people who touched you in your life, and that even, from what you were saying, that even influenced how you relate back to the world. You want to be that kind of a person that can touch other people that way too. And yeah, and so we all have some kind of a gift, maybe more than one. But I think you kind of, I'm very interested in some of the things that I could ask you, for instance, about our purpose in life. And I think you just, I want to ask you some more about it, but I think you just opened that up and revealed how, you see, so we all have this gift, but maybe we don't use it. But you do, because you know how important it was for any of these other people to do anything positive with you, and you want to do that back. So can you talk about purpose being part of that? You can't experience your purpose unless you have community, can you? Some kind of community, some relationship with others. Oh, I lost your voice.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, now I can.
It depends on what your purpose is. For some people, a lot of times it's hard to know what your purpose is because you have so much hurt and so many things that you kind of piled on top of each other. Every time something happens, you create a defense, and you keep creating defenses to where now you may not even be your true self anymore. Now you are operating from that hurt space or that traumatized space versus accepting the facts of the things that has happened, and begin to work on understanding how those things have changed you and how not to end up in the same place again. And when you start doing that, you kind of start restructuring how you think, because now you realize when this thing happened, it made me act like this. So how was I before this happened? And then the more you kind of cut away, like, when you have center block of concrete and you kind of chisel away, and the more you chisel away at the things, the more you shape yourself into your being, and then your purpose kind of naturally comes from there, because now you're understanding what you like, you're understanding why you like what you like, you're understanding so many things that can be fundamental to really building the life of your dreams.
Yeah. So we live in this place, and sometimes we have this big wall built around ourselves, like an 8-foot wall, and you can't even see over it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So we can't even see ourselves. So why is it important, and how do we get outside our comfort zone? Uh, in other words, don't we have to, and how does self awareness play into that?
It really comes with self-acceptance. A lot of times it is growing up, not just myself, but people in general are normally told what their limits are, what they can't do, what they shouldn't do. And, and then you begin to drown out what you are really interested in and what you really like. And you take on what other people want for you, especially when it comes to people's parents putting their dreams or hopes or ambitions on their children. So a lot of times people grow up unhappy and suffer from depression because they have suppressed their true identity. They've suppressed what they really like, what they really want, whether it is sexuality related, business related, purpose, like your interests. Like you might be interested in magic. You may not do magic for the rest of your life, but there may be something along the path of magic that will open the door to where you're supposed to be. So you might are supposed to, it may be better for you to take the opportunity to learn what that thing is, sometimes just to eliminate what is not for you. Sometimes it's better to know what you don't want than what you
Yeah.
do want, because if you know what you don't want, you know not to entertain, you know to give your attention to everything that you possibly would want. And that makes it better because now you have a different type of openness. When you are focused on what you want, then you don't even know what you don't want, so you open yourself up to things that may not be beneficial. But the more you heal yourself, the more you say, you know what, I like this, or this is a part of me. Like a lot of times people say lose your attitude, or you shouldn't be this way, but you may need that attitude at times. It's really more so of learning when and how to use the qualities of yourself that other people might not recognize.
Right. So we have a lot of opportunities in life to learn what we don't want, and then what we do want. And yeah, so there's the life is just really a daily learning experience, it seems like.
It really is. It's a soul school. We are here in human vessels, but we have a soul, and that is the core of our heart. That is the core of our being, and that affects what I call there's you have your heart soul. This is your soul, your heart. That affects your spirit mind. Your mind maintains and contains your spirituality, your spirit, your thinking, your mechanism. But your soul is the principle of your life, what you're here for, and everything else. And then you have your body vessel. This body is simply a vessel. You can do whatever you want to your vessel. It's like an avatar almost. But what's within you is what really builds you and establishes who you are. So your experiences shape who you become, because they tell you, they introduce you to either what works or what doesn't work.
Yeah. So that's again, I know it's cliche, but it's true. Everything happens for a reason.
I mean,
Yeah.
it It's like that, but sometimes it's not like that, because the reason could be that you didn't think it through and make a good enough decision. You didn't plan ahead. You didn't take advantage of, the information that is available to you, so you could do things a certain way. Sometimes I'd say life is like a maze, one of those moving mazes that every step you take, then it shifts and then it shifts and then it shifts. And as you're moving along, it's shifting based on your decisions, because every decision, it affects you 10 years down the road, and it affects everybody. Even if a decision seems like it only involves you, it affects people around you.
Yeah. So looking back, okay, I'll ask you, what advice would you give your younger self? Because I know looking back on my life, I can't, I know everything would be different if I started over, but that's not possible. That's not even necessary.
I would just encourage my younger self to be very trusting of my own intuition. I don't think that I ended up bad. There's a few decisions that I could have made different, but again, like you said, if you change one small, minute thing, it could change everything, and that could be either for better or worse. So if I wouldn't have been fighting so much and I would have went to college, I probably would still be in some capacity, still the very person that I am today, but the path would have been differently. But I could have went to college and experienced something either better or worse than the military. That doesn't mean that it would have been better than that option. It would have just been a different wave of experiences. And that's the part that we have to understand, that no matter what you do, whoever you are created to be, you will be that person. I don't care if you're on
Yeah.
drugs, you still gonna be whoever you were. You just gonna be on drugs. You're not gonna be in your right mind in order to do the things that you would be able to do if you wasn't on drugs. If it's alcohol, if you work a lot and you try to drown who you are in work, you're still going to be that in your job. It's just not going to manifest the same way.
Yeah. So what you said there, I think that we do the best we can in every situation with what we've got at the time. And then
Yeah,
life,
it's the most important thing that I would have for listeners to understand is there are no mistakes if you're willing to look for the lesson. If you can find the lesson in understanding, if you can find a lesson in what to do different, how to move, how to, grow yourself from that situation. If you can find a lesson, then there is a blessing in it because you've learned something, and that's acquiring wisdom.
yeah, absolutely. Um, it, so what you said there, I think is just so fundamental because um, what you are, who you are in this moment right now, and then life just comes and meets that.
Hmm.
And then you have a chance to learn to be who you are tomorrow because now you had a new learning experience. But the one thing that I do wish that I had, I don't wish anything different. But if I did give my younger self uh, some advice, it really would be exactly what you said. It really would be to have a little bit more confidence in what's inside of you and listen to it more carefully yourself. And what do we call it? Cherish that knowledge that there's something here that I can speak forth that's of value at any time. Um, we that talking about that wall around us. I think one of our defense mechanisms is just to not realize how great it is to be a human being
Hmm.
and to be
Well,
our.
I don't think it's a defense mechanism more than it is like conditioning and programming. We have been programmed to think of ourselves as not being worthy of this human
Exactly. Yeah.
experience. especially when it comes to religion. It's always deny yourself, don't accept who you are, you know what I'm saying? It's always a suppression of your true real nature of who you are. And so we don't know any better because we've been told to not trust
Right.
ourselves, to not, follow our own gut feeling. The intuition has probably been called the devil because it's a spirit, and people act like it's the devil if you're not, doing what they think is right. And so it makes it very confusing, and it makes people, it makes every person just about, like shrink in the inside because you're scared to be you, in fear that you will go to hell or you won't do it right. But if God made you who you are, you're in his image, then exactly who you are is who you needed to be to get through whatever it is that you signed up for your journey to be.
Yeah. I think it's just part of the growth process. It
Definitely.
can be part of getting older to learn that. And, the experiences that you have in life do tend to direct you towards having more regard for who you are as a human being.
For some
But
people, if you're able to grasp your actual human experience, for some people they avoid it at all costs. They'll work themselves into, forever, or they'll just avoid being alone. Sometimes being always needing somebody is avoidance of self because you're depending on them to create who you're supposed to be, versus being okay with being comfortable with who you are. Is why so many people are suffering during the pandemic, because you're not comfortable being yourself with yourself. So anytime you have to be alone, it makes you depressed because you don't want to think about everything that you've been through. But if you think about it, you process it, and you kind of, try to understand your own feelings, then it won't be a burden or hindrance like that to you. It won't feel heavy. You'll be able to think about it and find something peaceful within it. That's where the lessons come in, actually.
yeah, being able to sit with who you are and what's going on. My son today, he said something I thought was pretty profound. We were talking about, actually being aware of what's going on in you, or and then he likened the other reaction to taking a piece of duct tape and putting it over the check engine light in your car. And now you still have the problem, but now you
But you're
can't
just
see it.
putting something over it.
So it doesn't bother you until something blows up.
Right. And that is the problem for most people. Instead of addressing it, whether it's drinking, whether it is going to the club, whether it's working, whether it's being mean and guarded, and like now I'm going to treat people bad because people treated me bad. That's all still that defense mechanism trying to protect your innocence. But you have to heal it.
Yeah. So sometimes, even when you don't know what to do, you can at least know who you are.
Well, knowing who you are will kind of lead you on what to do. It will show you what to do because you'll know, okay, sometimes even if it is in just being still. I'm in a place in my life right now where I have to be still. I've had a lot of things going on. I've been, trying to do a lot of things, and it's not a not knowing what to do. It's just, okay, I'm doing the last thing that I believe I was led to do. So I don't need to do extra. I just need to do what I'm supposed to be doing. So whatever is supposed to come while I'm on this path, it can come. Because if I start doing this and start doing this, then if it's supposed to meet me here and I'm over there, then I didn't miss it because I'm off. I'm not where I'm supposed to be.
Right. So uh, you you've answered this question before, I think, but what's the difference between religion and spirituality?
Religion is more control. Spirituality is more about freedom because it's freedom to be yourself, to understand yourself, accept yourself, and embrace the godliness in you. Like Christ um is a title for anointing. If you look it up in a dictionary, if you look it up on Google, it's going to say at the end of the origin, it's a title for the anointing. So
Yeah.
what we find is that people give more light to the person who carried the anointing, the vessel of the anointing, than the actual anointing. They're looking more at the man instead of God's power on or through that man. So they honor it, and this is not just Christianity, because I normally base a lot of things off of Christianity, but a lot of religions base their reverence on the person and not the spirit that was within the person. And so the difference between religion and spirituality is the spirit within the person is the spirituality, and then religion is just telling you, okay, this is how you're supposed to be, which most of the times religion doesn't allow you to unlock your purpose. It doesn't teach you to heal. It teaches you denial. It teaches you avoidance. It teaches you, if I just act like it didn't happen, it just act, it won't be real. Like, no, it still happened. You still have hurt that you have to deal with. And if you don't address it, then you're going to still suffer. And a lot of times, like for me, I think why there was not a need for healing is because I always was able to talk about it. I would talk about it. People be like, why you talk about that? Why not? Like being able to share my experience when I talk about my mother trying to kill me, I've always talked about it like this is what happened. And because I'm not a liar, nobody can ever say my story changed. You know what I'm saying? So talking about it is a release. It served as that purpose. So it never weighed me down because it was not like I was trying to hide it or deny it or run from it. Because when you run from something, it's always going to be on your back.
Yeah. Yeah, that's exactly right. So um so you talked about freedom, and I see speaking freedom on your wall there. So I like the quote. I ran into a number of quotes the other day, and I know some people. Oh, the quote was something like this: "Freedom is not the ability to do whatever you please. Freedom is the ability to be able to respond and do what you ought to do." And such a big difference. There's a famous line from. Well, go ahead. You go ahead. I mean, that's good.
It's kind of like love. People think that when you are in love, it means that you are someone's possession or it's like a ownership, when
Yeah,
love is supposed to be freeing in relationship, but then even with self, because if you really love yourself, you won't judge anybody else because you know what you've been through, you know what you had to overcome, you know the experiences that you had that were
yeah,
traumatizing, and then you start applying it to other people, and it's like, well, wait a minute. Well, if I went through this, then what could they have gone through? How could their experience be different, and how could that have shaped them into who they are? So we try to make a lot of things one size, well, love is one size fits all, because if you truly love yourself, it's just some things you won't do. If you truly accept yourself, it's just some things you won't even put yourself through, because a lot of times we do things and we experience trauma because we're trying to find the things that we really truly run from within. Like we're looking for love outside of ourselves because we're not accepting the true nature of ourselves. When you accept the true nature of yourself, you'll be drawn to certain things. You know what you like, you know what you don't like. So some things you won't even entertain.
yeah. So how can we? I know you as a certified life coach. I think you call it a life enhancement coach.
Yes,
Well, could you
because
talk about?
I do a lot more than life coaching. I talk about business. I talk about sexuality.
Mhm.
I talk about spirituality. I talk about every area of life, because as a human being, there is not you can't have a good business if your soul is jacked up. Because at the end of the day, if you are unhappy, then it's still going to affect your business. If you're traumatized, if you're triggered, if you are unhealed, then it's still going to affect the other areas. I don't care how much money you get, you still need to work on your soul. I don't care. So I don't, my main focus is your soul healing, your soul work. But as a whole, I want to make sure that you understand how important sexuality is, because we all get aroused. We all have sexual hormones because it is natural. So don't deny it. And a lot of times we, because it's so taboo in America, and we don't introduce younger people to sex, a lot of times people become perverted because of the lack of exposure. Instead of being exposed to it, explained about it so that you won't be curious, because when you're curious, you know, oh, wait a minute, I'm trying to see what's going on. But when you understand and somebody talk to you, you don't have as much of a curiosity to figure out what it is that's going on.
Yeah.
So I try to incorporate every aspect of living and not just one.
Yeah. So now you already talked about love here a little bit, and it just brings me back to what you said, advice for your younger self. Because when I said I really would have, again, I can't criticize my past, but still, it would be nice to. It was nice to finally come to a realization of there's something good in here. Yeah, sure, we have everything else in here that everybody has, but there's something in here to be respected. And so when you talk about love, uh, we're talking about that loving yourself, accepting yourself first. But now all these things that you're talking about, you're bringing all this into practicality, and
Yes.
so you help
That's the
people with.
focus, because what I realized is that a lot of people have never been taught the things that I went to school for. So in order to grow themselves, I have to put it in a way that people will understand. Now, because I'm from the urban community, my target audience is more for the urban community and culture. However, I realize that poverty stricken white people are treated just the same way black people are treated. You know, and they are disregarded. They are, you know, down and out. So it's not really a black issue or a white issue. It's like if everybody has gone through something, a lot of different nations, countries, lands have all been invaded, attacked, monopolized. So everybody has trauma. It's just who's willing to help other people address theirs as they address their own.
Yeah, that's that's amazing. I really appreciate that, what you're saying
Thank you.
there. Because yeah, that's your work. That's your purpose. And
I really do believe that I am living my purpose right now. And it's kind of because I find myself to be in a happy space, although I have things that are going on that I shouldn't be happy, you know, about. Like I told my therapist, because I go to therapy. I told my therapist, like, I have every reason in the world to be a mean, vile, just nasty person, but I just choose to focus on what's good. And I love myself for that. I really sit and listen to some of my content, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I really like the way I think. Like I really like myself, and it is refreshing.
yeah, so can you talk a little bit about? Let's talk about some of these things that you mentioned here, briefly or not. But but so everybody generally goes to work, or they're an entrepreneur, one or the other, or but either way, you go to work. Can you talk about work and how we relate to that, issues, difficulties? What is that?
I'm not sure exactly what you're asking. I don't work a regular 9 to 5 job. And I like, my goal and my purpose is really just to live a stress-free life. As a disabled veteran, that's a lot of work. Going to appointments, making sure I'm where I'm supposed to be when I need to be there, and then trying to manage the stress of life, just in general. So, but within that, I've been able to navigate finding my purpose, understanding myself. Is everything that I'm telling you is learned from understanding myself and growing. So after I got divorced, I started working on myself. I started trying to figure out, like, why do I pick the type of people that I pick? Why am I going through these things? And how do I never go through this again? I don't like this. Why am I going through it? We're not doing this no more. So I started, like, okay, I was talking to my friend at the time, and I was like, you know what? I got a theory. And this is my theory. Every time this happens, it's like this is the sequence of events when certain things happen. And every other week it was like, okay, I got another theory. And every time it would be not just proven with myself, but I would apply it to what I see in other people's lives, and it would be like, okay, no, you're really onto something here. So that kind of created what you see today. Like, everything came from me really working on myself. So as I worked on myself, it was like, okay, now that I know that this works, and I'm passing the information to others and it's working, now I need to make that information available for others, as much as possible. But I wrote my first book when I got out the military, so it was always kind of predestined for me to be a writer. I actually have a picture of me when I was probably about 4 or 5, maybe a little bit younger, where I was sitting in a white dress and had a bookshelf in the background. So I think it was just destiny.
Yeah. So that's interesting because I know somebody who his story was that he wanted to be an ultra runner, but he kept getting injured. So he decided, maybe I better learn all about this. And so he became a coach. And so he learned more. And then he became a researcher, and he learned even more. And he was learning from other people, obviously researching how the best did it. And
Well, the greatest thing is that I have a host of my own ideals, and it is so enlightening to go and pick up a book that I've never read before, and it be in alignment with the things that I think, or the things that, so it is very refreshing when you start researching, because now you're feeding yourself information, and it's not just random information. Sometimes you don't have to do the work. It's okay to let somebody else do a portion of the work, and then you go and extend that work. And a lot of people want to be the first to do it, but sometimes somebody else has already done the bulk of the research. You might need to do a little bit more to extend it or to figure something new out. But it's about taking hold of information and then seeing where it applies to your life. I just think a lot. I am a obsessive thinker. So when thoughts come to my mind, I try to understand them as best as possible. And then I always find documentation or information that aligns with what I've been thinking.
yeah. So that's the way you see the world, as something to increase your knowledge in, and increase your experience in, and so on. So let's talk about sex and marriage. My wife and I have been married for a few days. We'll be married for 50 years in August. And
Oh,
yeah,
congratulations. That's a
yeah,
long
thank you.
time. I want to be married for a really long time. I don't know if it's going to happen, but I'm open to it.
So here's what I think. When you get married, you're not going to find anybody perfect to marry.
I think that you find somebody that is that fits you. It may not be perfect to other people, but
Right.
you have to find the person that fits your interworkings in order for you guys to work together.
Yeah, absolutely. You got to work together. And my wife and I, see, she was barely 20 when we got married, barely 20,
Oh,
just turned 20. And I was 22. So we didn't know diddly. We're just kids, that hadn't even had any experience in the world. So we grew up together.
and that's good. As long as you're growing together, that is the main key for relationships, love, and even sex, because that bond of growing together creates a better intimacy. So sex is more it's not just sex, it's not just a lay, it is an actual spiritual experience when you begin to intertwine the intimacy of soul level connection.
Yeah. And somewhere along the line, I think you have to learn that it's not all about you.
Yeah. Well,
Yourself as an individual. Yeah. I mean, it's about the other person too.
it is. They had this thing called happy wife, happy life, and I'm like, no, because the man needs to be happy too. Is happy spouse, happy house, because that man's happiness is just as important. If I don't want to say more important, but as a leader, it is, because he needs to feel sustained. He needs to feel supported. He needs to feel nurtured as a husband, and most times as a father or brother, just as a man, because it is tough to be a man, because you're not allowed to be emotional, you're not allowed to be human. Most men aren't allowed to be human.
Yeah. My wife has stood by me for half a century.
That is
So,
so special.
and it wasn't always easy, but she's been
I'm
there.
glad you guys made it work. It is so beautiful to be with someone so long.
Yeah. So what other issues do you help people with?
Well, so currently, I really just got finished becoming a mediation specialist. So if you have disputes before you go to court, you can come to me for mediation. I am going to pick up my domestic certificate so that I can actually help people. I want to try to save marriages, but primarily I have Speaking Freedom TV. It is my own network where I actually upload, where I talk a lot, I think a lot, so I speak it out on video, and I don't show myself a lot because I want what I'm saying to be more important than what I'm looking like. So I make videos and I put out content almost every day, to where I just give community-based information, where I talk about relationships, love, I talk about spirituality, I talk about unlocking your happiness and manifesting, and all of the things that are going on in the world. I talk about politics, I talk about everything. So Speaking Freedom TV is my outlet to help people. I've been doing this for a long time, but at first I didn't do it publicly. I wouldn't put it out there. But now I don't do personal one-on-one coaching yet. I am working towards that. I think because I have the type of soul that takes on people's issues. So if you tell me something, it doesn't just go away because the conversation is over. My mindset is trying to figure out what happened and what needs to be repaired and what you need to work on. And if you tell me too much, it won't go away until I've helped you. So I don't want to take on people's issues too much like that. So I try to do it in a very free way, where you can go to speakingfreedom.org, and you speakingfreedom.org, speakingfreedomtv.org, or edu-freedom.org, and you can actually go and get me talking about different subjects. I have over 150 episodes out right now, so you can hear me talk about pretty much anything and get something from it. And I talk about everything, so it's pretty cool.
Yeah. So speakingfreedom.org.
Speakingfreedom.org, speakingfreedomtv.org, and edu-freedom.org.
What was the last one again?
edu-freedom.org.
Okay. And that's how people can learn more about you
Yes.
and probably contact you.
Yes, there is a contact us page, as well as if you want to follow me on Instagram, it's Speaking Freedom on Instagram and on Twitter.
Okay. I will put those all in the description here.
Okay.
Dr. Kaci, thank you so much.
Thank you for having me. I really enjoyed this conversation.
I've enjoyed it very much too. So